you have to be in this fifth dimension. And we live in the third dimension, and then there's the daily habits and daily life, and maybe sometimes you are in the third dimension. And what do you do to be in the fifth dimension the most of the time? Or I don't know how many time, how much time you are in this area,
Yeah.
but do you have some words for us?
Yes, definitely. So there's such a difference between where we've lived in the third dimension and where we will live in the fifth dimension. And I'm not talking about two different planets and two different places. I'm talking about two different energetic states of being. When we're plugged into the 3D mind, we are quite literally locked into a mental prison. And we don't realize it. We walk around saying, oh, look at me, I'm free. And then if I say to people, actually, you're not free, you live in a prison, then they say, Kerry, you're mad. Look at all this open space around me. How can I be in a prison? Because we don't see the walls of the prison cell. We don't see the prison. So we think we're free. But actually what's happening in the third dimension is we only have access to the mental body, which means we only have access to the mental state of being. So we can only intellectualize. We don't have access in the limitation of the false matrix and in the limitation of the mental body. We don't have access to the other energy bodies that we are. We don't have access to the fifth dimensional body and the fifth dimensional consciousness until we transcend the false matrix and essentially shift through it. And if I were to simplify that process, I would say to you, it's truly about getting out of your own way, getting out of the mental body. That's what the shift. People say, I got to get out of the false matrix. I want to break out. You don't break out. You transcend, you rise above that prison cell. Because the interesting thing about the prison cell is, if you could think about it like this, it's got walls, 4 walls around you, but there's no ceiling, which essentially means we're free to raise consciousness. That's how we get out, so to speak, of that prison cell. Then when we're in 5D, thought stops and experience begins. And what this means is you will feel more and you will think less. And that confuses some people because they say, oh, does that mean I'm stupid? If I can't think, does that mean I lose my intellect? No, that simply means your intellect stays with you, but now you have access to your wisdom. Now you have access to your energy bodies. Now you have access to your soul, to your infinite self, to your monad, which is your oversoul. You now have access to the God world that you simply don't have access to in 3D. So when I first started entering into 5D, what I felt personally was almost like I was in a very deep meditative state, and I felt like I could just stay there forever. I felt such peace. I felt such ease. I felt such tranquility. I didn't want to wake up. I didn't even want to think. I didn't want to have thoughts to think. I was just in such an ultimate state of peace. And that's my daily practice. It's not about, okay, it's nothing in my mind. It's not about, okay, I've got to say this affirmation. I've got to use these words. I've got to do this yoga pose. I've got to do this rigid meditation. It's not. It's just about connecting to 3 things. My way of explaining that fifth dimensional state is that it's the 3 states of consciousness that are the Holy Trinity, and they are presence, connection, and stillness. Presence, connection, and stillness in any order. It's not being present, it's presence. And I wish I knew the German translation for the English words, because in English, to be present, it's like, that's the time. If I look at the time right now, am I present in the time? That's not what presence is. Presence is when you are immersed in the field of energy that is the now. Now I'm in presence. That's where that sublime peace comes from, presence. And then connection is, am I connected within? Because the false matrix taught us to be connected without. The false matrix taught us to be connected intellectually in a very linear, very logical way to our feelings, to our circumstances, to our job, to our world. We're very intellectual, and so we're not connected to our inner depth, to our presence. Yet in 5D, we are. And then there's stillness. Stillness does not mean standing still. People think this is stillness, rigidity. That this is not stillness. Stillness, you can be on the treadmill running. You can be in your car driving somewhere, but be in a state of stillness. That simply means I'm not scattered. I'm here. And when I'm here and I'm centered inside myself, I become very energetically potent. I become very energetically powerful. And when I bring those three states of being together that I call the Holy Trinity, then I have transcended the false matrix. And it sounds so simple because it's just 3 words. People are going to think, oh, cool, I can do that. It's going to take me 2 minutes. Watch me do it. And then they're going to get frustrated because they can't. And this is one of the great paradoxes of spiritual teaching, because things often sound simple. And I know I do make them sound simple because that's my job. I want to simplify everything so people understand things. But those 3 states of being can take you months and probably even years to really get into, to really step into, because it's the process of moving beyond the boundary of the mental prison. Presence, connection, stillness is the answer. But to get to that answer, it takes practice, it takes devotion, it takes dedication. It's not impossible. You can do it in any guided meditation. To be very honest with you, you can do it in half an hour, but to prolong that state of being and to live in that state of being, that's what I want. I don't want to give somebody a half-hour experience and then say, okay, off you go now, because that's not really going to be the answer. The answer is when you can stay there in that state of being. And then you can witness whatever goes on in the world. And you're witnessing it from a higher perspective. And every conversation you have, even if you're just going down to the bank, you're going shopping, you're in the so-called ordinary everyday world, you're bringing your light with you then. You become a beacon of light then in a very, very dark place. And that's our purpose, Felix. Our purpose is to be that light in the ordinary, everyday world. Not that the world is ordinary, but you know what I mean. Just to be that beacon of consciousness. That's when we change the world. We don't change the world because we're sitting on a mountaintop in the Himalayas meditating for 20 years. We change the world because we dare to be the higher consciousness in the human form.
Thank you very much. It's very nice. It sounds so good. It sounds like, oh yes, I will do it right now.
Exactly. And that's why I issue the caution. I don't want people to go, but Kerry said it was just those 3 things. Now, why isn't it working? Those 3 states of being. I work with my online community and we meet every single Friday and we practice. And then people say to me, how many Fridays are you going to do this for? And I say, for as long as I can. For as long, I've been doing it for 4 years. I will keep doing it because every time we go into presence, connection, and stillness, we go deeper, further, further. It's not 5D is not one place. It's actually, when you step into it, it's an expanding field. It feels like an infinite field of consciousness, and we can go so deep. Some people take the first step and they go, oh, I'm 5D now. That's just a taste. That's just a little taste. We've got to go all the way in to that 5D experience and into the experience of who we are as 5th dimensional beings, to reacquaint ourselves with who we are as these beings of consciousness and bring that back into the human form.
Hey, du hast das Video bis hierhin geschaut. Ich danke dir von Herzen für dein Interesse. Jetzt ein paar Dinge. Zum Ersten, wenn du diesen Kanal noch nicht abonniert hast, bitte mach das jetzt. Wenn du schon gemacht hast, ich danke dir. Schreib bitte einen Kommentar, wie hat dir dieses Video gefallen, was gab es Neues für dich, was ist das Wichtige, was du auch den anderen Menschen jetzt weitergeben möchtest. dann lass gerne einen Daumen nach oben da und teile dieses Video mit Freunden, Bekannten, Menschen, für die das auch interessant ist. Und eine ganz tolle Sache jetzt, du kannst dir dieses Video komplett kostenfrei in ganzer Länge und ohne Werbeunterbrechung ansehen. Und das alles, indem du einfach auf den Link unter diesem Video klickst. Und du kriegst nicht nur dieses Video, sondern auch alle vergangenen Videos und alle kommenden. Einmal in der Woche gibt es ein neues Video, komplett kostenfrei und ohne Werbeunterbrechung. Warum mache ich das? Weißt du, es gibt hier in diesem System, in dieser Matrix, ein paar ganz große Firmen, die so ein bisschen willkürlich handeln. Die machen, was sie wollen. Wir haben es in den letzten Jahren gesehen, was passieren kann, wenn man Dinge sagt, die der ein oder andere anders sieht. Aus dem Grund will ich gerne, dass wir eine unabhängige Community aufbauen, dass wir auch weiterhin im Kontakt sind. Also, melde dich einfach an für die Community und bekomme die ganzen gratis Interviews. Ohne Werbeunterbrechung, komplett kostenfrei. Ich freue mich auf dich. Eine Sache noch, wenn du beruflich nicht ganz zufrieden bist, wenn du in einem System drin steckst, wo du einfach nur raus willst, raus aus der Fremdbestimmung, rein in die Freiheit. Oder wenn du schon selbstständig bist und für Menschen arbeitest, eine grandiose Leistung hast, viele Probleme lösen kannst, aber es irgendwie noch nicht richtig funktioniert. Vielleicht weißt du noch nicht genau, wie wirst du sichtbar, wie gewinnst du Interessenten, wie gewinnst du Kunden, ja Traumkunden und wie verdienst du das, was du wirklich brauchst, um ein Leben in Fülle zu führen. Wenn das so ist, dann komm unbedingt in die Show Bewusst und Erfolgreich. Live, regelmäßig bin ich für dich da. Klick einfach hier auf den Link unter diesem Video und wir werden darüber reden, wie du es schaffst, deine wahre Berufung zu leben, mit Traumkunden zu arbeiten, in der finanziellen Fülle zu leben, dass du so viel hast, wie du brauchst, um hier wirklich gut klarzukommen. Und dass du im großen Bild den Menschen hilfst und deine Lebensaufgabe erfüllst. Das wäre doch fantastisch, oder? Ich wünsche es jedem Menschen. Also komm unbedingt in die Show Bewusst und Erfolgreich. Und jetzt schau dir das Interview gerne an. Zu Ende, vollkommen, kostenfrei, ganz. Und wir bleiben in Kontakt. Ich danke dir, dass du da bist. Ich danke dir für dein Sein, für deine Arbeit. Mach weiter so.